Every complex piece of hardware you own, your smartphone, your car, your enterprise software, arrives with a precise operating manual. But the human brain, the biological supercomputer coordinating all of it, arrives with nothing. Efficient strategic leadership requires treating the executive mind as an enterprise operating system, a biological substrate processing a relentless, compounding stream of inputs. Operating this hardware blindly was difficult a decade ago. In an era of AI-driven information overproduction, it leads to systemic, chronic friction. Generative AI tools are often viewed as workload reducers. In practice, they generate massive reports and slide decks at near zero marginal cost, shifting the burden of data distillation downstream. C-suite executives and directors now serve as manual biological filters for all this automated production, spending their hours performing continuous, low-level cognitive triage. Chronic cognitive depletion stems from a mechanical routing error, forcing modern data loads through an outdated mental operating system. Within the brain's architecture, the executive control center is located in the lateral prefrontal cortex. This region governs working memory and strategic deliberation. Sustaining high-volume cognitive triage comes with a metabolic price. As data streams force continuous processing, an excitatory neurotransmitter called glutamate accumulates at the synaptic junctions. Once saturated, the balance breaks down. To prevent damage, the brain downregulates prefrontal activation as a biological stop signal. When this network locks down, computations of economic utility shift. The brain prioritizes short-delay, low-effort options, leading to impulsive decision heuristics. Because the clearance of excess glutamate relies on slow metabolic recycling during deep sleep, this accumulation cannot be reversed during waking hours through wellness apps, meditation, or short breaks. Unmanaged enterprise data causes a hard biological shutdown of executive function, leaving an organization exposed to unmitigated strategic risk. Generative AI models exploit an exhausted brain by weaponizing the processing fluency heuristic. As a predictive engine trying to save metabolic energy, the human brain equates linguistic and conceptual fluency with empirical truth. Large language models assemble perfectly balanced syntax and structured semantic markers. They eliminate the hesitation and structural discord that historically alerted human evaluators to a flawed argument, inducing a dangerous state of cognitive ease. This ease bypasses deliberative oversight. Executives drop into a state of synthetic certainty, internalizing authoritative machine narratives without verification. Historical military evaluations illustrate the danger of relying on narrative certainty. Operations prioritizing deterministic mathematical models and quantitative body counts frequently ignored qualitative ground reality. In modern enterprises, unmonitored algorithmic feedback loops generate catastrophic failures. During the 2012 Knight Capital collapse, a synthetically confident system destroyed $440 million in 45 minutes. Relying on synthetically fluent AI summaries without enforcing active epistemic friction transforms strategic decision-makers into passive editors who ratify machine-generated conclusions. Shifting from biological vulnerability to resilience requires upgrading the brain's organizational operating system. This is the three-layer META-APC architecture. It begins with Layer 1, the cognitive engine, which manages perception and active working memory. This base layer operates under a biological constraint. In complex, high-interactivity problem spaces, active working memory is limited to 4 operational chunks. Excess data is rejected as noise. To protect that capacity, Layer 2, the control tower, manages cognitive flexibility and inhibitory control. It functions as a filtering gate that blocks extraneous data load before it can saturate working memory. At the top, Layer 3 is the Metacognitive Pilot. This layer is responsible for epistemic vigilance, interrogating algorithmic logic and assessing risk based on the curated chunks delivered by the control tower. This 3-layer biological architecture requires strict external governance protocols to function under modern data pressure. Organizations must actively construct cognitive friction to prevent the split attention effect. Spreading financial models, key metrics, and strategic justifications across 50-page slide decks fragments the central executive workspace. The brain expends working memory simply trying to integrate these disparate sources. The operational solution is a transition to strictly scoped 6-page narrative memos. Narrative prose forces the author to establish causal chains and integrate multivariable dependencies. This reduces the reader's extraneous cognitive load, presenting a coherent strategic model. Deployment of these memos is governed by a protocol called synchronous silence. Rather than asynchronous skimming or redundant slide presentations, strategic forums begin with 15 to 20 minutes of silent reading. This ensures thorough processing and establishes a unified mental schema across the leadership team before deliberation begins. Stripping away AI-generated filler and enforcing silent processing artificially slows information ingestion. This deliberate friction provides the space for strategic clarity. Even with optimized ingestion, the Metacognitive Pilot must be conditioned to interrogate algorithmic intelligence. Institutional stress testing originated in military wargaming and Cold War alternative analysis, designed to challenge orthodoxies and expose strategic blind spots. The modern enterprise equivalent is the multi-cell executive AI Gymnasium. It distributes simulation governance across a red cell adversary, a blue cell executive command, and a white cell adjudicator. The red cell generates adversarial prompts, engineers covariate shifts, and exploits algorithmic sycophancy to test whether the executive team can detect distortions within routine analytics. These simulations train executives to deploy the Petrov checkpoint, the mandatory decision gate requiring a human override of automated alerts during high-stakes scenarios. The Petrov protocol requires independent verification. Before committing resources based on algorithmic guidance, leadership must establish a non-algorithmic evidentiary chain, confirming the core assumptions. Contextual judgment functions as a cognitive muscle, one conditioned through repeated high-consequence simulations against adversarial systems and incomplete intelligence. Relying on individual willpower to survive the era of AI data overproduction guarantees failure. Shifting from biological vulnerability to explicit structural cognitive governance is the only way to reclaim executive bandwidth. Human neural architecture is capable hardware, but processing modern data streams requires the META-APC framework to serve as its engineered software upgrade. Shifting the focus from architecture to the internal biological mechanics allows for the activation of continuous neuroplasticity. The operating system is built. It is time to deploy it. We invite you to initiate the 22-day challenge. Master your cognitive edge with META-APC engineering.